I know it's late. Many of the witnesses who would have testified tonight about this bill are gone. You only had 5 at the House companion bill. There were many times 5 witnesses, my organization, the Rhode Island Coalition to Defend Human and Civil Rights, is very strongly against this bill, we have a petition against this bill which has been getting a number of signatures, so let me just make one thing clear about the bill. There has been 2 conflicting ways of talking about the bill. It's said to be a bill about blocking the interstate highway, but as people pointed out, the bill is far more broad than that, covers a lot of things, and it's hard to actually comment on this because in the House companion bill there was plenty of feedback about it. Plenty of people said they wanted to change it. Senator Roptakis tonight said he wanted to change some parts of it, but we don't have any new version of it. We haven't had any response to these criticisms, we just have to comment on the original bill without. So I'll just say what I think is some problems with the bill. First of all, mens rea. This bill, as Senator Archambault said, this bill covers not just people who didn't even intend to block the highway. It says not just intentionally, but knowingly and recklessly, and obviously that goes far beyond the one incident that last year that was supposed to precipitate this bill. And there have been some trial, and the bill also doesn't just apply to interstate highways. I know it was said earlier tonight that the bill doesn't cover local streets, just interstate highways, but as written, it does cover a lot of local streets, any street that has a state or federal highway number, not just the actual interstate. There have even been some trial balloons about making this bill explicitly apply to highway overpasses. And I want to make clear that that's a very bad idea. A lot of times people do stand on highway overpasses for all sorts of reasons, sometimes for protests, sometimes not. I've actually held up signs on highway overpasses, and I know very well where to stand. I choose the Broad Street overpass over 95, not the northern one, the southern one, because there are 2 Broad Street overpasses. Southern one has a lot of clear space. It's not near an exit. If you hold up a sign, it's not going to cause any problems. And you know, seriously, even if holding up a sign on a highway overpass was distracting, it doesn't cause the kind of traffic problems that you see every week with rubbernecking when there's an accident on the other side of the road. If there's an accident on the other side of the highway going the other direction, it does cause rubbernecking. You don't see that when people are actually just standing on overpasses, holding up signs or whatever. So overpasses are a very bad idea. People hold up signs on overpasses because that's a very good way to send a peaceful message and allow your message to be seen by a large number of people. So in all these ways, this bill goes way beyond what it's said to do. As many people have said, this shouldn't be a felony. It shouldn't have mandatory minimum sentences. And I think Senator Roptakis even said he wanted to, he recognized that. And we already have a misdemeanor that covers this, even though, as written, this bill actually takes away the ability to charge you with a misdemeanor. So people couldn't even plead down to a misdemeanor. They couldn't have their sentence suspended. They couldn't plead down to a misdemeanor. They have to be convicted of felony, and that's completely pointless. Let's not forget the reason why we have this, why we're even in this discussion, is because there were some very widely known and well-publicized issues about abuses involving police. Those caused a number of protests, and they got national coverage. And unfortunately, we don't have any bill in the General Assembly that tries to address those issues that were raised by those protests. Instead, the response by the General Assembly is to introduce a bill in the Senate and the House which actually just treats protests more harshly instead of trying to deal with the problems that the protests were trying to call attention to. And for good reasons, that's very, very unpopular. It will be even more unpopular if this moves closer to passing. I'm sure you've seen, many of you have seen the movie Selma, where people did block the highway. That happened all the time in the civil rights era, sometimes without any permits. And it was done for a good cause. Those circumstances could happen again in the future. And I just want to be clear how that even though this bill is said to be protecting public safety, there's really a much bigger public safety issue, which is that unarmed people, people who are not causing any harm, have been killed by law enforcement, and that was something that the protests have been trying to call attention to. Unfortunately, the General Assembly hasn't focused on that. Instead, the General Assembly focuses on an issue where the harm to public safety is very rare and only theoretical. None of these highway protests have actually caused any harm to public safety. There's only a slight risk. And so you're, instead of focusing on the bigger issue of public safety, the one that's been more widely publicized, these bills focus on a much smaller, which is merely theoretical risk, which has become very unpopular. So I'm disappointed that I'm disappointed that this bill is being reintroduced, and I hope you will vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, Senator Lombardi for a comment.
Thank you. Just a general comment, not a comment to Mr. Rose's. And I think that the one value that we have in submitting, bringing this bill forward is the value of this lively debate that we've had. And I think that's very, very important. You know, I signed on for that very reason to the bill, not necessarily that I agreed in principle with the language and the full breadth of the bill, but more importantly, to bring forth relevant issues that have come before us. And I caution always, there were a couple of bills tonight where we're seeking to create a new level of criminal law, you know, whether it be traffic violations, operation of a motor vehicle negligently that results in a huge or an egregious result. But I think that it creates, and I applaud Senator Raptakis for bringing forth a relevant issue. It's a relevant issue. Whether we should look at that conduct and criminalize that conduct is certainly a debate for another day. I don't foresee, presumptuous of me, but I don't foresee that this bill is going to, be passed tonight. It's certainly going to be worked and reworked. And one of the concerns that I have, obviously, there are two major concerns that I have. One is the creation of a felony. I'm really troubled by that. But more importantly, I think that when we create new criminal statutes, we forget that there may be a statute on the books that applies directly to the same set of facts and circumstances. And I think Mr. DeLauro's comment, although he's not here to hear me compliment him, I think was he illuminated the issue considerably when he talked about the station fire, where a simple misdemeanor can result in a serious criminal violation if that misdemeanor results in action, in an egregious result such as 100 deaths in the station fire case. So with that, I thank everybody for the lively debate that we've had tonight.